Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be discussing ADHD, mental health, and gut health. If these are topics that you're interested in, please hit that like button and let's get started. So I want to start the discussion off with ADHD. So ADHD is, well, it stands for Attention Deficit Hyperactive Disorder. And essentially what it is it's a learning disability, and it affects different areas of your brain, and it is caused by low levels of dopamine. So your attention, your executive function, your memory, all of these things are heavily affected by ADHD and the low levels of dopamine. And the reason why I want to talk about this topic is because I think that the school system does a really poor job at catching the signs of ADHD early and diagnosing children as early as possible. And the fact that children are not being diagnosed early is causing them to not perform well in school and to develop other mental health disorders because of the effects of ADHD. Like I said before, ADHD affects your executive function, it affects memory, and it affects your focus. So a lot of children have trouble focusing in school, and that results in poor performance in school, and oftentimes teachers and parents just think that the kids are not smart or they're just lazy because they're not performing as well as their peers, when in reality they just have a disability and they are struggling with this internally, but they don't know what to do and they're not even aware that they have this disability. I want to use myself as an example. I was diagnosed with ADHD at age 23, and I am the one who caught the signs of ADHD. I spent majority of my childhood with this disability, and it really affected me in many areas of my life, particularly in school and how I performed. I remember not being able to focus when I was in class, whenever the teacher was talking, being easily distracted, constantly daydreaming, having trouble remembering things that the teacher said. When it was time to do homework, I had a hard time just sitting down and clearing my head and being able to focus at the task at hand. And all of this resulted in me not performing well and me not getting good grades, even though I knew I was smart. And because I had to deal with this on my own, and I spent pretty much all of my childhood undiagnosed, this led to me developing anxiety and constantly being worried. And because I knew that I wouldn't be able to focus, especially on tasks that I wasn't interested in. So it really just led me to develop other mental health disorders, and I'm a little bit resentful because the signs were there and no one caught on to the signs. None of my teachers, my parents, no one. So I'm really passionate about mental health and learning disabilities, and I really think that as a society we need to let go of this stigma and really give people the time and the attention that they need, particularly children, because they need it. A lot of them, they have disabilities, they have ADHD, they have dyslexia, they have OCD, some of them are on the autism spectrum, and because they're not showing visible signs, they're not hyperactive, those the symptoms get overlooked and they're not diagnosed, and it ends up affecting them in different areas of life. So that's why I'm passionate about this, and it's a discussion that I feel like needs to be had. Now, like I just mentioned, along with the ADHD, I developed other mental health disorders. For me, it was anxiety. I have chronic anxiety. I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety, and I 100% believe that is a byproduct of the ADHD and me going through such a long period of time being undiagnosed. And the thing about anxiety is that it really affects your nervous system. Like, your nervous system is responsible for so many things in your body. Your brain and your nervous system are directly connected. So when one area is not functioning properly, it affects the other area. So for me, because I was so anxious and I have really bad anxiety, my nervous system is very dysregulated. So I just developed so many different issues because of that. So having a dysregulated nervous system shows up in many different ways. For me, it showed up in my gut health. I developed IBS as a result of my anxiety, which is a byproduct of my ADHD. And because my nervous system is dysregulated, I'm not able to my body cannot properly digest food, and I find myself in a constant cycle of anxiety, stomach pain, bloating, gas, all of those symptoms that are a result of poor digestion. And I know for a fact that it is directly linked to my anxiety and my nervous system being out of whack. And as a woman, with our hormones, certain times of the month, our hormones are depleted. So that also affects our mood, and it can raise our anxiety. It can, make us restless and just irritable, and our energy is just extremely low. So it's just like a whole cycle of issues, but all of this goes back to mental health, to having disabilities that affect your brain and the way that your brain functions. And a lot of times you have all these physical issues, but it's really a result of something that's going on mentally or going on in your brain and how your brain is functioning. So I think it's important to pay attention to when you find these physical symptoms being prevalent. So is it during certain times of the month? Is it when you're in a high stress environment? Is it when you're tired? Not getting enough sleep is also a contributor of anxiety. So, stress, high levels of cortisol, all of those things are all correlated and affect your nervous system and your mental health. Now I want to touch on how getting diagnosed with ADHD changed my life. Honestly, it was the best thing that ever happened to me, because I finally got answers for why I was the way I was. I spent majority of my life thinking that I was just different and that something was wrong with me, and I just wanted to so bad be like everyone else. I wanted to be like my friends, my peers. I wanted to get good grades. I wanted to be able to focus. I wanted to be able to pass my classes. And all of it was because I had a disability that I wasn't aware of. And then when I finally got diagnosed and I did my research, all of it started to make sense. Why I wasn't able to focus and why I reacted the way I did to certain things. One of the symptoms of ADHD is rejection sensitivity. So because our emotions are dysregulated, we tend to take criticism and any form of rejection really personally. And that is something that really affected me, especially in my friendships. I noticed that whenever I felt like I was being ignored or not being appreciated or being criticized in the slightest way, I would take it really personally and I would lash out. And that was really because my emotions were just dysregulated, because looking back, a lot of those situations did not warrant the response that I gave, but that was a result of my ADHD. And this is not to make like an excuse for not being a good person, but definitely how I would feel in those situations, you know, constantly thoughts ruminating of past situations and just taking things personally when it really didn't need to be taken personally, I know for a fact was a result of my ADHD. My ADHD also affected me, well, still affects me in the workplace. You know, I have time blindness, which is a symptom of ADHD. So I literally have to set a routine so that I can wake up on time and make it to work on time. And then when I arrive at work, I have to just schedule myself so that I can perform task and just be engaged with my coworkers and fellow colleagues so that I can be productive and not zone out and daydream when I'm performing a task that I might not find mentally stimulating. If you're someone with ADHD, I would definitely recommend you pursuing a career in a field that you like. This will definitely help you with staying focused and engaged, because if you pursue a career in a field that you're not interested in, that you find boring, then you're gonna have a hard time being focused and being productive at work. The last thing that I want to say is, if you do show signs or symptoms of ADHD, don't feel ashamed. Go speak to a therapist and get diagnosed. I promise you, it is going to change your life. You are going to find so much more fulfillment in life if you get diagnosed and you start to address the symptoms that you have. Having ADHD or any learning disability is nothing to be ashamed of. There are so many people that have these disabilities and are going through this journey with you. So you can reach out to people for help. There are online groups for people that have ADHD where they share their experiences and they give advice on things that work for them and that help them manage their ADHD symptoms. If you are watching this video and you too have ADHD or any other learning disability, please share your thoughts in the comments. Let me know what your experience has been, whether or not you've gotten diagnosed, and how has that changed your life. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you all in the next one.